this moment, I give all glory to God. So before last Sunday, which was Mother's Day, and I talked about the magical month of May, the 2 Sundays before that, for those of you who were here, I was doing a 2-part series on living the law, which is leading into a longer series where I'm going to talk to you about different laws of the universe. Today, starting with the law of attraction. But before I do that, let me remind you some of the truth and aspects of living the law for those that weren't here those 2 Sundays. The law of life is a forever expression of freedom. And this law of life is at work in each and every one of you, everybody, and in myself. When our intentions becomes reconciled and cooperative with the universal intention, then we become one. And we become an expression of that good that's flowing through us. There is a way to work with the law, to not fight the current of becoming, but to go along with the flow, not to force it, but to work with it. And I'm talking about being, not doing, the current of becoming. When our intention is the same as the universe's intention, and not just trying to do it for something for ourselves, but an understanding that each of us is a stronger part of something else in this universe, something that is magnificent, eternal, infinite, and good, then our lives can be an expression of that as well. Doesn't that sound great? The more that we understand that, the more that our lives become this wonderful expression. And what we really have to grasp, since I talked about it in those 2 talks, is that any so-called failures that we may look at in our life are due to taking part in the finite part around us rather than the infinite part of us. In other words, being earthbound and letting the outside world control us. Remember all the time, whatever's going on out here is a reflection of inside. So rather than being controlled by that, we want to go inside and say, what do we need to change? Where's our thinking not working right? And therefore, all success in our life is due to us taking sides with the law, with God, with love that works inside. So you may look at working with the law as the same as taking it into our mind, and we live one with it as a silent partner, so that we have this energy source called God that's working alongside with us all the time. When we do that, we then become conscious of this creator, this source of all power, and we open ourselves up to realize and to receive the many benefits that surround us. Isn't that great? To know that there's always, I love it, to know that it's always there for us to receive. And it is real, folks. It is real to have the law of life, the presence of all that is, be a silent partner working inside of us and for us. Now, if you are searching for something in your life that's going to be a shortcut method to just trying to solve it in the moment, and you're not willing to move forward with an upward progression, not willing to learn to think differently, to work with the laws of life differently, then this may not be for you. But if you're here wanting to change, wanting to become aware of how to change your life, you have an opportunity in these lessons that you're going to listen to over the next number of weeks for you to understand how you can harness that good inside, how you can become one with God and be it every moment of the day. And that's why you are here. To be and to do life with God's help, with all its attributes of good, isn't something that just happens to a fortunate few. It's there for everyone. Each and every one of you and everybody has that life force inside of you. And it is simply seeking your awareness and the direction for good that is within you and around you, to be manifested through you in a particular way that's uniquely situated through what's occurring in your own individual life. Even though, as I've said before, we look at God up here and the love and all the aspects of God that comes down in, everybody has it, but we express it in our own individual ways. Then, when you understand that, you can get from these lessons that I'm giving you that every one of you has the capacity to bring forth in your life whatever it is that you want. Whether it be great or be little, it doesn't matter. Remember, it takes the same energy to bring something great as it does small when you think about it through your thoughts. It's just about, because you can think, and in your thinking you create ideas and desires. And that's a great thing to have. That's God working with us, having more and more desires. We're here to have that, not to just simplify and cut ourselves down and be simple and small. That's the word I was trying to get. We need to be big. We have the power, because the universe of power is endowed with each and every one of you, and all of creation, it's everywhere. And all that we desire is ours for what? For the asking. As the law says in the Bible, ask and you shall receive. That's partly what we're talking about today. So, whatever we desire, we are doing it there to ask, to receive, for the correct application of this law of life and understanding what it means for us. There is a quote that works with this, and it says, when a circumstance arises, whatever situation we have in our life, we are not to come under it, to submit to it in servitude. We are to surmount it, to overcome it and master it by exercising the creative law of thinking. And once we do that, then we grow in our own love and our own personal power and wisdom. Rumi in the 13th century said, if a king has sent you into a far and distant land with one specific task to accomplish, you could get all caught up in the world, thank you, and accomplish 100 other things. And if you fail to accomplish the one thing for which you've been sent, is if you accomplished nothing. So let's look at it in the world right now. God, the overall designing principal power of the universe, G-O-D, grand overall designing principle of the universe, sent you into a far and distant land, let's say planet Earth. And you came here through human birth to accomplish one task, to discover who you really are. Well, in truth, we are sons and daughters of God, of this universe, of the life itself, in all its beauty, wonder, and glory and power. But if we come into life and we get all caught up in life's things and we do 100 other things than working on ourselves and finding out the truth of who we are, and we start doing what society wants us to do, if we fail to discover and deliver who we are, then in the end it's as if we did nothing. So we are here, beloveds, in this physical body to become aware of the oneness of God, how God expresses through us. And all we have to do is work with God. That's what Spirit said back in the story of the Garden of Eden. Be one with me and do God's will, which is our will as well. Sometimes people get caught up into that. Oh, God's will is this huge thing that I can't do. No, it's all together because God is inside of us. We are here to grow. And working with this law of life helps us to do that. So, that's an explanation of what we talked about. So let's go to the law of attraction, which is the first law of many that I'm going to share with you. The law of attraction basically says that we attract to us people, places, and situations that match the vibration of our thoughts. Very simple. But let's get into it a little bit deeper. To desire is to expect. To expect is to achieve. Nice quote. It brings up a question though. How do you make yourself think so that the part of you that wants to win can get over and take charge of the part of you that doesn't want to win? Is that a good question? How do you make yourself think so that you can have what you really want instead of being afraid and letting that get in the way? We all experience that, haven't we? So how do we make ourselves think so that the good that we desire can be in our lives? That's probably a question that you asked before, and it's a valid question. God says there's all this good. How can I take it into my life? How can I get through my fears and my negative thoughts that get in the way, my ego? And that's what this lesson is about. The underlying law that regulates supply in the world of effects has two important phases. The first one is desire, which we all have. The second one is expectation. Now we have to talk about those two. God, it looks like something weird staring at me. These mental attitudes represent lines of attractive force. The first desire is the positive phase of the law. The second one, expectation, is the negative part. When we get caught up in expectation too much, it gets in the way. Well, they must be complied with to obtain the best and greatest results. So the first one, which is desire, is the positive phase, and it creates a process of attraction. So we don't have to have an expectation. We know the attraction is working for us just through having the desire. So when we earnestly desire a thing, what happens through that desire? It sets up a line of force that connects you to the invisible side of the good desired. Meaning it's not here yet, but you get connected to it because it's already there for us, waiting for us. Now, should you have a desire about something, but then you start to weaken inside, or your ego gets in the way and goes, you can't have that, or you change your desire, then that particular line of force that you have from desire to what it is disconnected. And you miss the goal. But if you remain constant in your desire, this is what I want, and I hold on to it, and I don't let any thoughts get in the way, then I'm making that line of connection much stronger, and guess what? Then I realize it at some point in my life. It could be that fast, depending on how quickly we open up to it, or it might take a little bit of time while we're working on that desire. But the principle involved in it is that you cannot long or yearn for anything unless it already exists, if not in form, at least in principle. So what does that mean? Everything you desire is already there. God knows what it is that you want. So we don't have to go off scraping, looking for it and so forth. Just go inside. What is my desire? And know that I am one with the mind of God and the desire of God. And that desire is the power just in itself of calling it forth. The mere fact that you can have a desire makes it appear. Maybe in invisible form right off the bat, but it's still there. There are millions of levels of vibration, of which there are millions of frequency, because everything vibrates. You all vibrate, the cells of your body vibrate, where you're sitting at, the car, everything is vibrating like this. Millions and billions of levels of vibration. So what that means is everything is on a level of vibration, including the desires you want. It may be that you just haven't quite gotten to the vibrational level yet to make it appear in your life. That's what we need to work on. When we desire something, what we do is we put ourselves connected to that frequency of what it is. Now, going back to what I said before, that it doesn't take any more difference to manifest a big, strong thing than it is a small one, means that the vibrational energy, if you keep it small, then you can get that. All you have to do is get the vibrational energy stronger to attract something heavier to you, or bigger. That's all it is changing your vibrational energy. So, it's just like if you turn on a radio station and you're looking for something. You want a talk show maybe, and you got to get to the right frequency, or you want certain kind of music, you have to get to the right frequency. So it's the same thing. When we desire something, we put our mind on the frequency of that which is desired. Now, that can bring up fear. People can say, oh, God, I desire this, but am I worthy of receiving it? Or all it takes is, what am I saying? Put yourself on the vibrational energy. That's all. And open yourself up to receive. Now, there's no use to desire a thing unless you expect it, in part or in full, because desire without expectation is idle wishing or dreaming. You waste a lot of energy doing that. You got to be clear about what it is you want. Know that it's something that's there and that you really want it, so your vibrational energy becomes stronger. And the desire that you have for what you want puts you in touch with the internal world of causes, and it connects you to the substance of that thing desired through invisible means. You can't always see it because it's all invisible until it comes in form. This continuous expectation is necessary to bring it into a reality in your life. It's much like the pull of gravity in the physical realm. Expectation is a drawing force of the mind which acts on the invisible realm. So, you know, the problem that we have with this, beloved, I think is what starts when we're young kids. We come in born into a physical form, connected with God still, connected with desire. Our whole life as a child is to learn about relationship to ourselves and to other people around us and to the things in our life. But we're not taught or programmed to expect the good we desire, are we? We get a lot of negative statements. You're too, don't think of yourself, you're too selfish, don't do that. You can't have that, that's too big. Follow in my footsteps, do what I want you to do. Quit being selfish. Any of a number of other negative things that you could probably think of right now that got in the way of you manifesting what you wanted. And because of that, then we get into this fear and we start to believe that we can't have what we want. Wrong thinking. That's all it is. We just got to change those thoughts, those negative statements that we grew up with. One of the statements that's quite common is, it's too good to be true. That's absolutely a ridiculous statement, because how could anything be too good to be true? If it comes from God, it's good. We are good. Anything that we want is good. It's not better than we are. We're not less than that thing. We are one with whatever it is that we want. So, but we were trained in childhood, and that's why you're all here right now, to not expect quantum leaps or great changes in our results. Just as long as I get a little one, maybe that's okay. Right? Something like that. We are taught to expect small incremental increases. And when we have a job, we do things in our job only if it's in favor of who's ever making the decisions. Because the boss is there, and sometimes we get caught up in that I can't have all of what I want unless the boss gives it to me. Or other things in our life too. So when we use that radio metaphor I talked about, we move from one channel to another, and it's all different frequencies, okay? Some higher, some lower. It's the same thing within us for programming. We go to different frequencies. Do we want something that's a lot bigger, that's raise our vibrational energy to match it? Something a little bit smaller, let's have our vibrational energy match that. We get to stabilize the frequency in our feeling state, in our mental state. And those are two important things, because once we think about it, we have to feel along with it. That's what attracts. Thinking is creation, feeling is attraction. So those two things really work hand in hand. And once we do that, and once we get connected with both of those, then what happens is we become more attractive to what it is that we want. And time collapses, and all of a sudden we're receiving what we want. Since there is no real time in our universe other than what we think there is anyway, that means that that's already there. But in our own mind, things have to be gotten rid of, have to be changed so that we can actually see it, feel it, have it in our lives. Nelson Mandela, we all know who he is, right? Told a story of when he was in the cell after being told that he would be in prison for life at hard labor for having fought the ending of apartheid. At first, all he could think of was these thoughts. His good would never happen. His goal would never happen. And he's filled his mind with those thoughts. He remembers going around going, it will never happen, it will never happen, it will never happen. Any of you ever said that? And he all got caught up in that. And then one day, he said it was as if a stream of light landed on a parched thought field. And a new thought came through. And it said, maybe it could still happen. And he started to nurture that thought a little bit more, and he began to be hooked to that thought. It became to be more important than the other one that he had saying it couldn't happen. Let's put that off the side. Yes, maybe it could, maybe it could. And then the thought came to him, well, maybe if this is what it looks like while it's happening, since I'm believing that we're on the process of happening, and I'm holding that thought, that means even my time in prison right now has something to do with the ending of apartheid or my goal. That's a huge thought. From saying I can't have it to thinking, oh, this being in prison is a part of that. So then I can accept it because I'm going towards my goal. And all of us have some desired good in our mind, don't we? And in the physical absence of its presence, we begin to relate to it. We practice it, and it's a frequency of being. We start saying a new thought. Yes, I can have this. Watch the ego come in. Tell it to leave. Let it go. Stay focused. And so he began to think that over and over again. This is what it looks like. Right now, where I'm at is what it looks like while my good is happening, while my goal is happening. And he said that once he got to that frequency, so it's a much higher level of frequency, he had the thought to begin writing letters. And it was through his letter writing that the American media picked up this whole thing, and you know the rest of the story, where it went from there. Now, think about that came from a huge thought. It began with one man in prison refusing to succumb to the circumstances that he was in, and opening his mind to joining with that desire that he wanted inside. And from that, answers and solutions began to arise. Are you all familiar with Abraham? non-physical being that comes through a woman and talks a lot of lessons and books out there. And I used to go to their workshops when I lived in Albuquerque, and one of the lessons they taught us was called the 17-second rule. And what it is I would have clients, I would have you take a thought, whatever situation you have going on in your life right now, and take the best thought you can do it and keep thinking over it while I counted 17 seconds. And then at the end of 17 seconds, I said, okay, what's the next best thought you can get to? And there would be another thought. And so I would count to 17, and that person would have another, and at the end of it, do you have another thought? Oh yeah, there's this thought. And each time, it just got better in desire after 17 seconds. And it finally got to the point where they couldn't think of any more, and that was the best they could do at that moment, but it was a lot better than where they were 2-3 minutes ago. So all it takes is 17 seconds to stay focused on the desire that you want. So, Nelson Mandela was in his own prison. Are you in your own prison? Do you know how to get out of it? Changing your thought, changing the vibration. There's a Persian proverb about a bug and a rug. Change that all around. A Persian proverb about a bug and a rug. So he's crawling around in this rug, and there's all these tufts of wool that stand like giant trees in his way. And when he gets past one of them, whack, the second one comes and smacks him in the face. He's forever trying to get between them to get to some crumb that somebody left there so he could have it to eat. But these tufts of wool loom above him. They look like giant problems. How is he going to get around this? Now, if that bug could lift himself up and look down at what he was seeing, he would see things a lot differently. He wouldn't see them as problems. He would just see them as part of the whole plan. And this is how I get from here to here. Maybe that's what we need to do sometime, is put ourselves above the situation that we're in. And how can we look at it differently? How can we look at our problems differently and see that the rug, that God's eye view is actually coming through us? So rather than living like a bug in a rug, we ought to be operating with God's view. How does God see things? That's what we want. And when we do that, then the law of attraction starts to work for us. Does that make some sense? We know many persons who desire good things, but they don't expect it. They don't make the steps to get there. And maybe we've done that ourselves, where we had something that felt just too much for us to get it. We decided to stop and not go after it. And why would we do that when we keep getting the message that God is here for us? I think it has to do with conditioning, and bad negative conditioning at that, and it needs to change. And as I said earlier, it's stuff that we were conditioned when we were children, but now we're adults. We can have better thoughts than what we had from when we were children. It's time to release all of those and change our conditioning. So if you want to do that, here's a simple method in the beginning for using your powerful mind to increase the amount of good in your life in conformity with the law that's there working for you. First of all, you want to form a clear and well-defined mental picture of what it is you want. Doesn't matter. I want a new car. This is what it looks like. This is the shape, this is the size, this is the model, this is whatever. I want a new house. How does it look? How many windows does it have? Where does it face? I want a relationship. What does that look like? What does it feel like for me to be in a divine relationship so that I can have that in my life? We got to get a clear and defined mental picture and write it down. But do not specify exactly its particular form. You can say, what would this give me, this relationship or this health or this job with money? What would it look like? What would it give me? How could I be more connected to it? And not specify how it shall come. That's expectation. But simply desire it firmly and gently. You want to avoid any anxiety or strained mental mind, any fear that comes up or ego that gets in the way. And it's better to do your mental picturing in odd moments when you're quiet or restful, because then you're not letting yourself be distracted by negative things that are going around you. But what you want to do is let that plan of whatever it is you want unfold in its desire that's inside of you. That's God's desire for you. What does it look like? What does it feel like? Don't force the thought, because that causes congestion. You're trying to push it too much and say, I need it now. Let that go. The calmer, the more peaceful you are, the better the results. because you're connecting to the law of life and you're connecting to what's there vibrationally. If you're thinking about it on a nice level, but your fear comes in, it changes the vibration. And you don't want that. You want to stay connected to the vibration of what it is that you want. So imagine that you're fishing, for those that do that, and you cast a line out there. Sometimes as soon as the line hits the water, the fish bite, meaning the thing that you want comes to you. But you'll never see it if you don't reel it in, right? You got to pull it in. And so our desire hooks us up to good, and we see that it works when everything is here. When the desire of what I want and the thing that I want come together based upon vibrational energy, it's there. Sounds kind of simple, doesn't it? When I talk about it this way and just get rid of thoughts, it doesn't come about because I didn't do it the right way, or I'm bad, or I'm wrong, or I'm a sinner, or any of these other things that we're told over our lives. All it is getting connected to the law of vibration, which is a law of God. If you would proceed to nourish your desire or want in a confident conviction, then you will have it. Please take that in, knowing it right now. Earl Nightingale said, as you move towards your goal, it moves towards you. Very simple. So keep taking steps in that direction. Now, it may come to you at once, maybe in little things that you're able to accomplish right off the bat while you're working on the bigger things. The little things might be, maybe there's an invitation for something, or a book I want to read, or meeting a friend on the street, and it comes by degrees over a period of time. Just be aware that it's happening, and keep opening up to it, and keep changing the vibrational energy. If it doesn't happen, it's like somebody sitting down at the bottom of the hill praying that they can get to the top, but they're not taking any steps in that direction. They're not raising their vibrational energy. So we want to sit and be calm, but we want to know that we can have it. We have to get in harmony with the law. We have to get in harmony with the operation. Harmony is right here. Once we get connected to this chakra more and this communication, which we're all blocked in some way, we can't ask for what we want, we can't speak our truth. We're so blocked as human beings, and we have to let that go, beloveds. We have to be able to be clear about asking for what we want, stating our feelings, how we feel about things in our relationships. And any resistance that comes up, like the ego, if we could just drop it and open ourselves up to the good, and don't build our resistance back up. Don't let the fear get in the way. Maybe our thought, as I said earlier, oh, I finally accomplished something, but man, what I want is a lot bigger. I don't know if I can have that. There's more resistance getting in the way. We have to let it go. So, the conditions are to obtain more and more in your life, to live with the law, to understand that you have faith in the wisdom and sufficiency of the source of all good. Have faith that God's good is there waiting for you. And you have to understand that the mind is a magnet. It can attract to you. Just think about it being a magnet, how a magnet works in attracting. And as a result, you bring to you according to whatever state you're in. That's the clue. Change the state. So science over time has consistently proven the existence of this law of mental awareness. So each of us should be aware of how we think. That may be the first step. I want to be aware of how I think about things during the day. Watch my mind. How does it operate? How does it work? Where do I let fear get in the way? When Marconi suggested that there were invisible waves that transmitted sound, what happened? He was put in a mental institution, because the people at that time couldn't believe that that was possible. The idea that we are operating on both a visible and an invisible level, that there are physical laws, there are laws of mind and spirit, that was way beyond what people could think at that time. And yet that's the truth. That's where we want to see. There's laws of the invisible, of God and the good that we want, and the laws of the visible and where we're at in our physical body. And if you put your mind in harmony with the good that you expect, and I'm trying to say this in different ways so it goes in a lot stronger, then you want to expect it. You want to trust in it. You want to believe in it. And then they happen. Have you ever desired to buy a red car and then all of a sudden you see red cars around? Or something similar to that? Or you're hungry and you're walking downtown and all of a sudden all you see is restaurants. Because that's what we're focused on. It starts to come to us. We attract by our interest and our desire. Our interest and our desire. Let go of everything else. So when we have a desire and we have an expectation, folks, you have a lot of them happening all the time. Once it occurs, just begin to notice that the law has been put into operation. God's law is working there for you right there. And you can open up and say, oh, it's starting to come to me. Let me stay focused. And through my practice, I will attract to me what it is I want, because it works every single time. So reserve your seat for next Sunday and we'll start talking about part 2 of the law of attraction, okay? Any questions or comments about this one?
Beautiful. Wonderful.
Okay, great. We're doing